everybody, and welcome to the Barnburner TV network on ZINGOTV channel 250. Do not forget to download both the Barnburner app and the ZINGOTV app on the respective stores, iOS and Android. ZINGOTV is also available on Roku, Roku Sticks, Amazon Fire Sticks, Google Chromecast, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. It's free. Download it today. And how's everybody doing out there? My name is Scott Schertzen, and this, as always, is the Sports Den, bringing you all the insights into sports that we have to offer, and a lot of times things you may not even know about and never even heard of, including some of the things we plan to talk about today. As always, my far better co-hosts, Mr. Rob Stats and Mr. Obi Schottenfeld, are with me. Jared is still out on assignment, which is basically this running thing that I will always have. I think at this point, I'm just going to record it on MP3 and just hit play until the poor man comes back. Jared, you're with us in spirit. So anyway, how you gents doing out there?
I'm good. I'm excited. Waiting for the new year, 2021. Let's get it started.
Do not forget, though, Mad Max took place in 2021. This might be just a prelude to something bigger. We don't know.
This is, yeah, that's true. This is the lead-in, the build-up to it. So exactly. I'm doing good. Actually, breaking news about an hour ago, supposedly Adam Gase is fired. Will not be back as Jets head coach next year.
Gee, the shock of any, well, basically now that he just basically screwed the team out of the first pick.
Yeah, they said Craig Carton announced it on his show on WFAN about an hour and a half ago, and I was like, as true as this may be, I trust Carton as far as I can throw him, given his personality traits and everything, his character. Well, like, it's not, and there are Jet fans who are like, he's not gone until he's gone.
Well, yeah, it was more of a when, not an if.
Yeah. But there's some of them who are like, this dude they're like, what if he wins 3 in a row? Like, they're in such a panic. They're like, he's a black magic. He's going to somehow magically stay for another year.
I don't think New England's going to lose next week. Now, granted, I said that about the Browns. I said that about the Rams. But I don't think Bill Belichick, out of pride, is going to let himself lose that, And frankly, they're just going to land right in the middle pick anyway. So I don't think it's going to make a world of difference on that. They got killed last night, though, much to the appreciation of all the fans up in Toronto. Yes, I do want to point out the rocking bags I've got under my eyes. These things are just sin on wheels. I know. I woke up this morning. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, so be it. Thank God, basically, the people that are listening won't be able to see it, but the people that are watching, yeah. Anyway, so we got some cool stuff to talk about today. We are going to do something which maybe one episode, it may very well spill into a second episode, which I would be perfectly fine with. Frankly, if we rebanded the show into this whole area, I would probably be okay with that as well. But we are definitely talking some obscure sports today. Some of these things you've heard of, some of these things I promise you have not. And in my case, at least, I have them rated on a 4-level, really 5-level system of stupidity, watchability, playability, and obscurity, I believe was the other one that I had, and whether or not it's really a sport. Before we get into that, though, I do want to give some serious props because the San Diego Padres have decided that they are all in, and I mean all in. 2 massive pickups right here, Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. I love what that team is doing. I'm very excited by it. And as someone who honestly has a bit of a soft spot for Petco in San Diego, I love what they're doing over there.
I think it's great. That takes a lot of guts because the team that you're going after in division is the Dodgers. They're a beast, but these are the right moves. They had enough of a base to go with, and that is 2 players who are going to make a world of difference, and it's going to make that West a lot more exciting, especially for us folks over here on the East Coast who get to watch late at night.
Yeah, it's big. I didn't realize they got Darvish too. Was that today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah. I knew they got Snell and everything.
Yeah, they got him for pretty much nothing too.
But I refuse to root for the Padres until Manny Machado gives up his contract as part of that deal.
No, you and I
saw the video. Okay. Give it up. Said he would win a championship before the Dodgers. We bet his whole contract on it. There's proof. So, no, that's a big, that's quality right there. I mean, especially in that division, like they're going to need good pitching. And if both of those guys keep doing what they've been doing, that's a great 1-2 punch. And I think they had somebody decent before that. They've always had good pitching in their farm system. A couple of years ago, they had a couple, decent 1-2 combo that kept them in the hunt, when there were less teams making the playoffs. So I think it'll be very competitive, and the Dodgers aren't going to have a cakewalk back to the ALCS like they did this year, as some people think.
Well, honestly, the Dodgers, I don't see them repeating next year. It's hard enough. It's definitely hard enough to repeat, but I love what the Padres are doing. I mean, San Diego is a beautiful city. I've always been fond of that city. So I'm happy for them because they've been struggling and suffering for a long time now. And between, what they got on the pitching staff, Machado, like you mentioned, Tatis, and everybody else that's there, there's a lot to be excited about in the Southwest.
It's funny. I've never been to San Diego. Everyone I know who has says the same thing. Like, beautiful city. Like, oh my God, it's great. It's great. And especially like you want to see them get some good sports karma. Like they lost, their football team's gone and moved up to LA. They don't, and that's the only team they have. Like they don't have a basketball team. They used to have, I think, a hockey team, like a farm team that was like the San Diego Seals or something. It was
maybe
one of those like W or AHL teams or something like that.
They had a football team though. If you remember the Alliance of American Football, they had the San Diego Fleet, and they were terrible. But yeah, in the league that predated the XFL by a year, you had the AAF, which also never even made it an entire year. Although ironically, more games than the XFL did. But the San Diego Fleet were there. They weren't exactly a popular team, but they were definitely physically there. That's about all I can say about them.
Given what I've heard about how beautiful the city is and how beautiful the people in the city are, I don't feel bad for them that they don't have a lot of sports teams. They seem to have enough to do just being there with perfect weather every day. But this San Diego baseball team, I caught the news as well yesterday and he said, there's a chance we might cover this because this is big. And right now they have the second highest projected WAR of any team in Major League Baseball. So this is going to be a good team. It started with a strong base, and it just, it wasn't like grab the free agents the best you can. It was grab the free agents, the best free agents you need to fill in a few holes. So they're going to be a great team to watch for that West Coast rivalry.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit of NHL. I want to get into that real quick because we almost did that last week. And then again, I want to talk about obscure sports. But we officially have NHL again. Starting up next year, 56-game season, divided into 4 brand new style divisions there, all playing in division, which I think is going to be great for the rivalries there. My Devils, I think, are going to be completely screwed. I don't think there's any way that they're going to be able to get into the playoffs, but you always have hope anyway. But I like the fact that they did that. I like the fact that there's an all Canadian conference. I like the fact that the Blackhawks and also the Red Wings are playing in the same division, which means they're going to be playing each other again. And honestly, I'm just happy to have hockey back.
Yeah, I love this new format. The only thing at first when they announced the all Canadian division, it was weird because there was so much speculation that, some of the teams can't play. Like there's 7 teams in that conference, and like all the ones in, I think it was the Canadians, the Senators, a bunch of them, like the provinces don't allow, like they probably wouldn't be able to play there. And they're like, they're going to have to come to America to play. And I'm like, well, no, because then they can't get across the border. Like, that's the whole reason we set up that whole We Are the North, which ironically is the hashtag that they've adopted immediately, like We Are the North.
Unsurprising.
And I'm like, but then I realized it actually kind of works out that there's, I think it's Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg are the 3 teams that can play. And I'm like, Edmonton's already proven they can host 20 teams if they have to. So just do a 2, 2, and 3 format where 2 teams will play up in Calgary, 2 will play in Winnipeg, and 3 in Edmonton, and it'll basically be like a mini bubble, like 3 mini bubbles up there. So because there's really not going to be any fans, but like you said, I love that you get some of these old rivalries back, like Red Wings, Blackhawks. Here in the New York area, like Devils, Rangers, Devils, Islanders. Rangers, a Philly, like it's Pittsburgh, there's so many good rivalries. Boston in the mix, so it's actually, I think Boston might be the one team that loses a little bit of its rivalries because I think Bruins Canadians is a big rivalry for them, more so than like Bruins Devils, and Rangers. But I like where it's gonna be like amazing. There's gonna be so much trash talk on social media between Devil fans, Ranger fans, Islander fans. The Philly fans will be pessimistic for like half of the season, like they always are. Like, we lost, we stink, and then we won. We're going to the Cup final.
I guess go ahead, Obi.
I think the players are going to have trash talking too. You're talking back to backs all the time. Like this is a complete reboot of the sport almost. And this is a great opportunity for them because you're going to build these rivalries. You're you're guaranteeing one of the final 4 teams is a Canadian team. So you create a Canada versus America rivalry that doesn't necessarily exist, but you feel it brewing every now and again when you start talking about hockey. So, I mean, it's guaranteeing getting one of the Canadian teams in the Final Four. It's a complete reboot. The coaches are excited. They know it's playoff hockey every day because you're playing somebody and you're playing them again. And for those who like the fights, I'm sure they're going to be amped up because they're going to have holdovers from yesterday, holdovers from last week.
You know, and in this case here, because of the fact that it's a 56 game season over about 112 games, it's going to work out to be about one game every other day, as opposed to the one game in 3 system they currently have. So I like the fact that it's kind of an on-off system. It's going to limit travel that's going to have to be done there. Again, the rivalry aspect of it. The Sabres now have Taylor Hall, so he's going to be coming back to Jersey a few times. It's going to be great to see. What's going to be interesting also is the way that the system is going to be realigned is that when you have the division winners in each one, the leagues or the playoffs are going to rebrand themselves a little bit, reorganize. So it is possible you might have 2 teams in the East going up in the Stanley Cup Finals or 2 teams in the West, just based on how they're going to be going up against each other, which could be a new experience as well. You could, in theory, have Tampa going up against Boston in the NHL Finals.
Yeah, I think, and one thing the scheduling too, like you're saying, it's like every other day, basically, possibly back-to-backs. Goaltending is going to be more important than ever. Yes. And I was reading, it said like on one of the ESPN articles was like, you can bring in teams for training camp, can bring in like 36 skaters and an unlimited amount of goaltenders. And at first I was like, that's weird. And then I'm like, oh no, I was like, okay, this makes total sense, because if you can find like 2 solid goaltenders or a good backup, it's going to make a world of difference, because you're going to be able to rest your primary guy every other game or every third game and not have to worry about basically losing because you got a backup in that. And it's similar, like I just started the college basketball games again, and NJIT and FDU were both playing. They played back-to-back game, which is so rare for college basketball. You play, the school comes in, you play both games at that venue. Well, we played Saturday and Sunday, Monday, and you start to see like the swing on the second day, and how it's like, wow, like you're literally prepping, like with the short schedule in the NHL, you're going to have to prep basically like 2 or 3 game plans at the same time. It's like, okay, I got to go in, here's what I want to do. But if this doesn't work, like I don't have 3 days to make an adjustment. I have like 30 minutes to make an adjustment in the locker room. Like, okay, here's what I got to change up. Or the next day, like, here's what I got to do. I got to bring these guys in. I got to make these changes. And it's going to be at such an accelerated pace strategically and gameplay wise. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that factors in and how teams adjust to it.
It will. What's going to be, the NHL has done a lot of home and homes in the past anyway, like especially in this area with so many teams in such a tight, compact area, Devils Rangers would play 1 game in each arena. So they're used to it from that particular standpoint. But I like just the fact that it's finally starting up again, is great. Being a fan of one of the teams that somehow missed the playoffs last year, I'm excited to see a rebound on this and being able to see Canada have representation. Like Obi said, they're a division. They're a country that deserves to get a little more love in the Stanley Cup Finals. And you know what? They got a great shot this time around. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be nice when some cold weather teams have a shot and we're not looking at Tampa and Las Vegas. Not that I don't love the Vegas Knights, but it's hockey. It's supposed to be played outside on a pond.
Growing up in the 80s, the furthest south team that I could remember was St. Louis. The Atlanta Flames were down back in the 70s, but they went up to Calgary. But back then in the 80s, the furthest south team was St. Louis. And then in the 90s, that's when the Panthers got a team. Tampa got a team. Dallas basically got the North Stars came down
to Dallas.
Yeah, they moved to Dallas, and all of these teams started studying out west. Arizona, the Phoenix Coyotes. All of these southern teams where it's 80 degrees in the wintertime are suddenly getting hockey games. But I don't know.
Vancouver finally got a team, which is really cool.
Yes.
Like that's stoked. Then their logo looks really awesome. Like I have some friends up there. They're like, dude, we're just stoked that we got a good logo.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest question. With a lot of the changes that have happened, is the logo going to look okay? Vancouver had, I wasn't crazy about some of the ones that they'd had over there, that the hockey player one in the front, the blue one that they had at that point. I miss the yellow jersey. I always liked the one from the 90s there. Props to the Devils for going back to the Christmas tree again. I hated the Christmas tree in the 80s. I'm happy to see the Christmas tree back now that I'm in my mid 40s and have a feeling for the nostalgia days. But I like a lot of the unis that they've come out with, the alternative ones. And like I said, I'm excited as heck. I cannot wait for the hockey season to start. When my team has hope again.
Yeah, I was surprised. The one thing the Devils never went to was all like a black, like with black as the primary color, which and they sell them. Like you see fans with them at the game all the time. And you're like, oh, this is a cool like jersey. Like, why don't we wear this in the game? And we never went to it. Vancouver just became the latest victim of the snowflake offensive logo thing, whatever is going on in sports. Like somebody was complaining that the whale.
Yeah.
The sea whale. I was like, no. I was like, just stop. Like it was they're making money off of indigenous people's artwork or something. I was like, stop. Like,
well, as someone who's a fan of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and my soul is ginger side of it, we can look at that stereotype as well. But it's the wave. I'm okay with it. It's all right. I don't mind it. I've already accepted the fact that my pasty skin, and ethnicity and all this kind of stuff has a literal holiday dedicated to kicking us. So I've accepted it for what it is. Kick a Ginger Day is a real thing, so be it. It's 2020. Like I said, we got hockey back. We got sports back. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get, but I will not say football team. We've established that several times over. All right.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts, Ob?
No, I was just saying, yes, we have on your football team stance. Until somebody says.
All right.
WFT.
Yeah.
Who released Dwayne Haskins finally yesterday. And by the way, don't beat yourself up over the Browns losing, because let me tell you, when I heard that their entire receiving core was out, I was literally like, can I change my pick? Like on my, I was like, I'm taking the Jets by a like I knew there was no chance the Browns were.
I'm okay with it.
Had a shot at win. I knew, and they'll put it on Baker, but I'm like, you can't. It's even if it's the Jets, like you can't just go out and try to run the ball every play. He literally had practice squad guys like that he never played with before, because it happened like the day before. I think they're like, oh yeah, all these guys are out. Sorry.
The only one
playoff run.
The only one to give me a hard time is producer Joseph Pasek. Joe, the guy that runs Barn Burner, he will openly tell me when I'm wrong on picks. He threw me under the bus big time a couple of weeks back and told me my record the last time I did it. I had no idea it was that bad. I was really kind of embarrassed by it. So you guys, at least I appreciate it. You guys aren't giving me too much crap for it. He will. I'm sure I'll hear it. But okay, so we got about 35 minutes left. If we get to all of it today, fine. If we don't and we spill into next week, believe me, I have zero problem with this whatsoever. But we are talking obscure sports. We are talking the really bizarre things. Some of them you know about, like I said, some of them you don't. I've got it broken down here into 5 different categories. Basically the idiots, as I'm calling them: stupidity, obscurity, playability, watchability, and lastly, yes or no, is it really a sport? So I do want to get your thoughts on each one of them. I'm going to give a little bit of an explanation on each one of these things. Plus my own personal grading system. If you got one yourself, great. But first, I want to start off with extreme ironing. So this is something that's popped up over the last few years. I am going to pull up exactly what it's described as by the Extreme Ironing Bureau, which is actually a thing, which is, as they quote, the latest dangerous sport to combine the thrills of extreme outdoor activity with the satisfaction of a well-pressed shirt. This is the idea of being able to literally iron in any place, on top of a mountain, on top of a car, while skydiving, hanging on statues, skiing, and also at the same time ironing a shirt. So give me your thoughts, first of all, on extreme ironing. Give me your thoughts. Rob, I'll start with you.
This was, as soon as I read this, I think I messaged you guys. I was like, I'm taking a hard stance on this is not a sport. Like, what was the fourth? Because I got stupidity, obscurity, watchability. Is it a sport? What was the fourth category though?
Playability.
Playability. Okay. Yeah. Because let me tell you, stupidity, like this is an 11 out of 10. Obscurity, like a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Watchability, I have no interest in watching it. Playability, it's like, I mean, is it real? Like, I don't even think it's a sport. This is just like something like a gimmick that you do. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go iron my shirt on. I guess on the video, like somebody's ironing their shirt on that big rock in like Utah or Arizona. Like I'm like, okay, like this is something that like a social media influencer does. Like, yo, look at me, I'm ironing my shirt on a surfboard on the coral reef. Like it's not really a sport. It's just like a gimmicky thing you do. Like,
well, so out of the stupidity, I'm right there. I gave it an F. I mean, this is super stupid. You're basically taking a really cool extreme sport, whichever one it is you're doing, and you're like, look how mundane this sport is. I'm ironing while doing this sport. You're
it's multitasking. It's multitasking.
That's so true, because you take something like snowboarding, and it's like I mean, in a way, you can be like, oh yeah, look how skilled they are, but it's like they can do two things at once. But it's like, yeah, but like it makes you realize how like, okay, I'm skiing, like, and I can iron at the same time, like. How hard could this really be? Like,
exactly. Obscurity. I was a little more in the mid-range because apparently it's shown up in the soap opera EastEnders. So
I saw that.
Some people, the world's not just America. Playability, F. You either have to be able to do an extreme sport or you can't do this. Watchability, I'm not watching it. I didn't even make it through the whole video. You said that's not a sport. Not a sport.
I agree 100% with everything. Like that's spot on.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I gave on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being high, 1 being low. I gave it an 8 as the level of stupidity, 7 at the level of obscurity, because frankly, here in the States, a lot of people don't really know EastEnders anyway. So while it did get a nod in the show, I don't think a lot of people still even know it's a thing. So I went with 7 on that. Playability, 1. I have no desire whatsoever to do this. And watchability, 3. I mean, again, you watch a couple of clips, you're like, okay, it's kind of weird, but you don't really feel engaged and wanting to continue it. Now, my final question on that, is it a sport? I said no. Rob, I already know you.
I said no.
No.
And always giving a heavy thumbs down on that. Okay. Now, moving on to outhouse racing, where what you literally do is you take an outhouse, you clean it out, you make it into basically a go-kart or something like that, or sometimes actually just put it on, sticks and run with it. This is basically a thing that has gained popularity in the Michigan area. For whatever reason, this is popular. A lot of the places up north do it. They do it on ice. They do things like that. So in this case, I'm going to lead off on this. Outhouse racing, stupidity, I gave it a 9. Because, I mean, you're dealing with basically the place where you take a dump. And somehow that falls into the same category as cow chip toss, where if it involves anything involving poop, I have lost interest in basically turning it into a sport. 8, obscurity. Again, really kind of out of a left field thing unless you're local. Playability, 1. I've already established basically outhouses are for really one thing only. Watchability, though, I said 7. Because there's just a novelty of watching this, and the fact that people devote so much time, so much energy, into so much passion into making an outhouse into a sport. I went with 7 as a watchability, and yes, I do believe it's a sport.
All right. I see. Now we're gonna have a little disagreements, I think, here. So, out of these stupidity, I only gave it a C. It kind of reminded me of a toned down Spartan race.
Okay.
Because it was a little obstacle coursey. Also reminded me of the Klondike Derby from the Boy Scout days.
Oh God, yes.
Sled and make it work. Obscurity. This is it. This is top of the line obscurity for me. Like this is even if you know it, you probably think of it as, oh, it's those soap up derby cars we're making. No, it's outhouse racing. Playability, enjoyable, highly enjoyable, and easy to play if you have the right group of friends who know. If you got some builders and carpenters in your group, you can go ahead and play it. And it was extremely watchable, especially with the end when they're going through the muck looking for the corn, wiping, exchanging everything. It was great. And as well, the extreme ironing didn't make it, but I have a top 4 or 5 list of different things. So this was my number 5 of 5 festival sports.
Okay.
And number 4 of 4 racing sports that you gave us.
Okay.
And, it was definitely a race, so I'm going to go with the sport when you get to that later.
All right. So basically, I already said it's a sport in that case. So, okay. Rob?
Yeah, I think like it's hysterical. Like I've seen videos of it before, so I don't think it's stupid. I put it like, some people be like, it is like Obi said, it's kind of like, go-karts in a way. You're just changing kind of the vessel that you're in. Like it's not a traditional go-kart. So I wouldn't say, I'll give it a 4 on the stupidity scale. Obscurity, I put it like at a 7 because I had seen it before. Like I knew of it, having seen the news and everything. So I'm sure other people were like outhouse racing. I've never heard of it, but I give it like a 7 on obscurity. Completely watchable. Like I'll watch it, give it a 9 for watchability. I would love to play it. It's a 10, and it's like you're competing. Like there's an actual race going on, so I consider that to be a sport. And I know, like it's hysterical when you see it. Like it's for pure entertainment value alone. Like that's why I say the watchability is 10. Like it's just great.
All right. You know what? And like I said, I will give it credit. The imagination and the effort that was put in to make, these honey buckets, as we're calling it, into something really, I mean, they put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. This would not surprise me if it ended up being like some kind of a travel channel competition. Food Network has cookie challenges. Why can't Food Network have a Travel Channel, History Channel have some kind of an outhouse racing competition? It'd be lovely to see.
It kind of reminds me of a little bit too. Remember, which I'm surprised wasn't on our list, was the Red Bull competitions. Remember those? You would build like a go-kart or something, anything, and you would just drive it off an aircraft carrier like the Intrepid into the Hudson River. Like it was just basically to crash and burn, like just a big splash. I can't remember what it was actually called. I'll look it up, but that's what it kind of reminds me of. That same creative vein of like, let's just do like the most ridiculous thing we can think of in the go-kart race. And it's like, oh, we'll do an outhouse. And I think I've seen some where they have steer, like the dude sitting on the bowl and he's got the steering wheel going. They're like, I was like, this is amazing.
You know what? I didn't even know about that one. So
I know Red Bull. Yeah, Red Bull. They used to do it years ago. They haven't done it in a while.
Yeah. It was like Red Bull.
Flutog. I think it was Red Bull Flutog.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So moving on to number 3, and this one honestly is not that obscure. You had Rainn Wilson narrate this on Netflix. Ironically, this is what got us started in this topic in the first place 2 weeks ago. Cheese rolling. This is something that's really popular in Gloucester, England. Like a 5-pound block of cheese comes out of it. It is highly dangerous because the hill that they run down and often hurt themselves on actually exceeds 45 degrees at some point. So cheese rolling, I give it a 6 on the stupidity level. And actually, this could be a lot higher. I understand that. But I'm going 6 with it because of my fondness for the sport in general. Obscurity, 2, because, again, a lot of people know this one. Playability, 7. A weird part of me just wants to try this. I am well aware that I will probably hurt myself. I will probably break something. But I want to try this just once. I don't care about winning. I don't care about competing well. I just want to get down to the bottom of the hill and say I did it one time. And lastly, watchability, 9. Again, I could watch this thing all the time. However, I do not count it as a sport.
Okay. I gave it a B on its oddity stupidity. It's a great race and it's dangerous to boot. Obscurity, I came down to a C. Yeah, this is something we all kind of know. I mean, I learned a little bit more about it. I mean, there's a winner every time. There's multiple races. But it's only one place in the world, when it's done right. Playability, enjoyability. This is definitely an A. All you need to do is run down the hill, be crazy, and there aren't bulls chasing you. Basically, you're chasing the cheese, not being chased by a bull. Now that I'm 40, almost 50, this is much better than Pamplona. Watchability, I'm going to go with an A because you can stand at the bottom of the hill and watch people fall down.
Yep.
Which to me makes it a race, makes it a sport. It's number 1 on my list of races you gave us, and number 2 on my festival list.
Okay. All right. Stats?
Yeah, I'll do letters on this one too. I think stupidity, I love the idea. It reminds me of the old, another Boy Scout reference was like Pinewood Derby. Mm-hmm. Like this is what it reminded me of. And I think it is a sport for the same reasons. It's a race, it's a competition. Like obscurity, it's not that obscure. Like we see this every year. ESPN has covered this in the past. Like it's always covered by mainstream media. A for watchability, A for playability for all the same reasons. Like sometimes watching the people run down is better than watching the cheese because you're just like, when are they going? And they're tumbling and they're just rolling. And you're like, oh my God. Like, I want to see you and our good buddy Rich Haas do this.
Oh God.
Because there are 2 people being on set with Rich. Anybody who knows him, our good buddy Richard Haas has fallen down so many times on set. And I'm just thinking, this would be like the most glorious, painful, he'd just be tumbling like a
that
human.
Man has the single worst luck of anybody I think I have ever met. And it's not because of anything he's doing wrong. It's just stupid bad luck. Oh my God.
And he's a trooper though. Like on the dudes, man, he fell really bad. He got up and never missed a day. And I was like, "You're a warrior, bro." Like,
They paid those medical bills.
Yeah.
Too. Maggie Gyllenhaal felt so bad for him on that
story. Well, we should cover that on Tales from the
on Tales from the Film Set. Yeah. Actually, I'll talk to him about that one too.
Yeah. I love cheese. Cheese rolling. Like it's definitely A+ sport in my book.
All right. So what I will do is I'm going to change my scores to an A to F since you guys are rolling that way anyway, just so I have clarity. Is A basically, if something is really stupid, is that an A or an F in your eyes?
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure. That's why sometimes I was doing the number and then the letter where I'm like, I think well, F, I think if it's stupid, like dumb stupid, F. Like if you don't like it. If you think it's like stupid, like I said, stupid funny, I give it an A. Like if it's enjoyably stupid, I give it an A.
Okay. That's not like, is that how I kind of put into watchability on that one? Okay. So our next one on the list, number 4 of the 15 that we have, is chess boxing, which frankly is exactly what it sounds like. You do a couple of rounds of chess, you do a round of boxing, beat the crap out of one another. And then basically when you're suffering brain damage, you continue basically moving your pieces around, hopefully in the places they're supposed to go in the first place. Chess boxing lasts 11 rounds between playing the chess itself and also boxing until you either basically 11 rounds or you're unable to compete in either one of them. Chess boxing for me on a stupidity level, if A is not stupid at all, F is stupid as heck, I gave it an F. Honestly, I think it's one of the dumbest ideas out there. However, I'll get to basically what I like about it later. Obscurity, C minus. I mean, it's sort of well known again because you mentioned the Ocho before, so they've had chess boxing on there. Playability, honestly, I'm giving it like a D plus, maybe C minus on this. It's not something I personally would want to do. I was part of the chess club. I can handle that part. But I'm not going to go into a ring and God knows what basically a punch in the face is going to do to my ability to move at night. So I'm going to basically give that one a little, probably like a D plus or C minus. Watchability though, I gave it a B minus. I like the concept of it. And I like to be able to see the chess moves when you've actually taken about 7 or 8 uppercuts to the jaw. You sit there and you take a couple of shots, you're walking a little funny and it's like, okay. Rook pawn, up 2 on as your opening move. There's something that makes no sense there because you cannot figure out what the heck you're doing. I did count it as a sport though because of the boxing aspect of it, and because chess is also an Olympic sport.
So the one grade I totally disagreed on you was oddity, stupidity. I gave it A as in positive. I had a positive feeling about its oddity and stupidity. Okay. It is just a great idea. I'm going to take one of the most physically demanding sports and one of the most mentally challenging sports and put them together. Although I think you could argue, a lot of people would, that boxing takes a lot of mental acumen as well. Obscurity, it's around now, so I gave it a C. Playability, low. It's D. Here's the problem. I was watching it, and I just feel like there's got to be an ELO rating that you have to meet to be in it, because can Tyson last 4 minutes on the chessboard? Probably, and you're not going to last 3 minutes with Tyson. So the chess level has to be high enough for each player, and that brought the playability down. It's enjoyable to watch, although those guys were not great hitters, at least the ones I watched. No real pop in their punches. And it concerns me. Everything I watched was kind of split up on time. How much time is there really? Are you sitting around doing nothing to watch while they're taking off their gloves, putting their gloves back on? So that affected the watchability for me. I considered it a sport because there was a definitive winner in most cases, either by knockout or checkmate. And it was number 2 on my list of martial arts that you presented to me.
Okay. I think I know what might be number 1, but we'll get to that one later.
You're right.
Shortly, possibly.
Yeah, so I kind of had C's across the board on this one too, I think, because it's like you said, there's so many different things to factor in, like you said, the watchability, like we're seeing it in clips. So it's like if you're watching it in person, you're like, okay, I got to take the gloves off. I got to go see the cut. It's not like a regular boxing match where you get a minute, or they're not just jumping right to the chessboard. So no desire to play this myself. I've been punched in the face enough times as a kid, gotten into enough fights and done. I'd rather just play chess. I think it was kind of obscure. Actually, when I first read the list when you sent me, I thought it said cheese boxing because it was right underneath cheese rolling.
Fair.
And I'm like, wait, are we like slapping people with cheese wheels now? Like, this would be awesome.
That probably still hurts anyway.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this might be great. But yeah, it's kind of like C's across the board. Like stupidity is like a D. Like it's just, like I said, it would be something I might be more interested. Like if Tyson was doing it, oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like he said, that you get that EVO level of like boxing to chess. So it's like if you could find the right pairing for this, like this could be super entertaining. But as it is, like if it's just regular people with, there's really no, in-depth value to what they do besides like we're just playing. Like if there was a whole backstory to it, it could definitely be very entertaining.
All right. So, but you consider it a sport though?
Yes, I do. Yeah, like
Okay.
same reasons. Like chess is a sport, boxing is a sport, so it's a hybrid, it's a biathlon sport.
Okay, cool. So this one I also consider to be a sport, although really, really high on the stupidity level. Shin kicking. Shin kicking is exactly what it sounds like. It apparently originates all the way back to England in the early 17th century. So we're looking at a 400-year-old history on this, where the object is to very simply kick your opponent in the shins enough times until they call enough and back out. Legend has it that they would toughen up their shins by literally hitting them with hammers. And in modern, according to Wikipedia, in modern competitions, the combatants are required to wear soft-toed shoes and stuff their leg trousers with straw for some padding. So basically, they at least had a little bit of armor on there. None of the shin guards that I used to have when we were playing soccer, but they do have ambulance crews on hand in case there's any kind of injury or possibly death. Shin kicking, stupidity, very, very stupid. In my system, I gave it a 10, so we'll go with an F on that. Obscurity, I gave it a 6, so we're equating to about a C+ on that. I think it's a little more obscure, but somewhat well known. Playability, hell no. There's no way in hell I'm doing this one ever. It is pretty simple to play, though. I'll give it that. Watchability, I'll give it a 5. I mean, I could watch probably a couple of minutes of video, but I probably couldn't watch a full competition and go there live because I don't think my shins could physically deal with the mental abuse that their shins are taking. Obi?
So shin kicking, oddity, I gave this one a C. Seems like it's almost like a legit martial arts or maybe a part of a martial art, like kicking in the legs. Obscurity, it's just primarily a festival game in England. What was it? The Cotswold Olympic Games is where they came from, so not particularly well known. Playability, enjoyment, though, very playable. Not very enjoyable, so I gave it a B. It's like you're gonna play until you actually get kicked. Like, oh, I'm done. That's enough. One shot. It's all tough. And watchability. This is just like watching a bunch of drunk dudes kicking each other. It's like your 20s. Like, look at those dudes. That's what it was like to me. Number 3 on my festival games. Number 3 on martial arts.
By the way, when I say playability, it's basically will I actually play it, which is why I put 0 on that because no way in hell I'm doing that.
Oh. Yeah, we're going to drop that down to a solid D. Like, no, there's no fun in getting kicked in the shin.
Yeah,
apparently it is for some people.
For this one, I actually split that category up because, like, it's a stupidity. It's kind of dumb because it's really painful. Anybody who's ever banged their shin on like a table, coffee table, walking through their house, like it hurts. I personally don't have a lot of meat on my shin bones, like so I know how much it hurts. And obscurity, I mean, it's not that obscure. I give it a C for that. Watchability, a D, because I just for the pain, like it feels like it's one of those sports where I watch it and you kick somebody and like I feel the pain watching it. I'm just like, no, this is not going to be pleasant. Playability, anybody can play it. So if you're looking at, how easily can it be played, it's an A. You're like, you can just walk down the street and, pick somebody, hey, can I kick you in the shins? Is it a sport? Yeah, because it's kind of a contact sport, a combat sport. So yeah, I'd say it's a sport, but enjoyability is like an F. Like I would get no enjoyment out of playing this. Like I said, no enjoyment out of watching it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you watch a couple of clips just to get the feel for it and be like, okay, I'm good. I think I'm moving on. But you know what? It's got a devoted fan base. Some people, attend the championships every single year. No. Just no. I remember what it was like when I was a kid getting a kick in the shin, even with shin guards, and how much that hurt. So we got about 15 minutes left. Maybe we'll get through all of these. And like I said, if we don't, that's okay. We can move on to next week with it. I have 0 problem throwing a few extras on there. This one, I like the idea of it. Doesn't surprise me in the least, but Quidditch, obviously the sport from the Harry Potter universe, you are admittedly playing it with broomsticks between your legs, which I think personally, although it's keeping to the heart of the sport itself, I think takes away from it a little bit. But I like the idea of it. It doesn't surprise me that this is actually a sport. It doesn't surprise me that this is actually happening, but I kind of dig the idea. Stupidity, I gave it a 3, being a Harry Potter fan. Obscurity, I gave it a 6 because while everybody knows the game of Quidditch, they don't know necessarily that it exists as a fan-created sport. They also did change some of the rules on it a little bit, which is why playability to me is a 9. I would totally play this on a heartbeat. If you're familiar with Quidditch and how the game is played in the Harry Potter universe, the golden snitch, when found, does end the game. Same with it is in Quidditch here, but instead of being worth 150 points, it's only worth 30, which I think is a smarter way of handling it. But you get 10 points every time you score a goal. I like the idea of that. I think it's pretty simple that way. And watchability, yes, I would absolutely watch this. I gave that an 8. And yes, I'm counting it as a sport, even though it's a fictionalized sport involving a bunch of wizards.
All right. So out of these stupidity, I gave it a pretty good grade. I gave it a B, and I'm going to read my note here. Our generation had to take wiffle ball bats and swing them at each other to recreate movie magic. These kids have whole games to adopt. Frankly, I'm jealous. It is great. I've seen it played. I've sort of played it a little bit at 1 or 2 nerd festivals I've been to. Never a full game. But I don't think it's that obscure. I think I took my kid on college tours. I think more than half the schools had a Quidditch club.
Nice.
So, we're a little old, but that younger generation, they're all playing Quidditch. And if you can't find a Quidditch game, it's not too hard to sort of half play like we play 5-on-5 football. You just got to make sure you have one guy who's willing to be the snitch. So high on playability in A. So I guess I didn't do the full research on this because I had played it and I knew about it. So I given watchability a B, and I would have gone higher, but I thought even in the version that the kids play, the snitch was worth 150, and that always bothered me. They just catch the snitch.
Agreed.
So I'm going to give it a B plus now that you tell me it's worth 30 and not just 150. And it is number 2 on my score the ball game.
Nice. And by the way that they actually operate the golden snitch is they have someone designated as said golden snitch, and they literally run around until someone catches them. So they hide in a specific spot, and eventually it's kind of a game of hide and seek that way. Rob, how about you?
I don't think it's stupid at all. Love the Harry Potter movies, love the game. So it gets an A for that category. Obscurity, same thing. I'd say a B for the same reasons you said, Scott. We know it, but some people just know it from the movie and they're like, this isn't a real sport. And it's no, people turned it into a real sport. And our buddy Britt Chandler did a short film called Adventure Capital, where it's a whole movie about starting a professional Quidditch league. It's a short film, so it's really good.
Yeah.
Watchability, A. Playability, I would love to play it. A. Is it a sport? Yes, absolutely. They've turned it into a real life sport from the movie screen. And enjoyability. I love everything about this.
Agreed. This is definitely one of the best ones that rated on my side of the fence. This next one did not. I do not qualify this as a sport. It's called Kabaddi. It is basically the equivalent of hold your breath tag. Now, tag has somehow found its way into being a nationally televised sport. I believe, I forget who's hosting that. Is it Rob Riggle or somebody like that? But extreme tag is now a thing on Fox. So tag is apparently really a thing. Hold your breath tag, though, I'm sorry. I got no interest in something like this. I don't think it's stupid per se. I think it's a challenge because the idea of running as fast as you can while not being able to breathe does give a certain level of challenge that's unique to its sport. So I gave it about, in this case, like a C minus as far as stupidity goes. Obscurity, I gave it basically, it's pretty dang obscure. So if an A is high, I'm giving this like an A minus here. Playability, again, would I play it? Yeah, maybe. I would say, again, if A is the highest I can go, I would probably go with probably like a B or B plus on that as far as playability goes. Watchability, F, forget it. I have no interest in watching other people hold their breath while playing tag. That's just my take.
So this game to me is my only straight A game. This game went straight A's around.
Nice.
Everything. I don't know if you sent the clip. I didn't see a clip, but I read it. It seemed great. It's organized tag with rules. There seems to be some strategy involved. It just looked genius to me. They're not really holding your breath. You're more yelling continuously. Which sort of brings up some of the martial arts, so you can.
The ki, yeah.
It reminded me in a bizarre way of Gaga. I don't know if you guys know Gaga.
I've heard of it.
It's we can put it on the list, but it's basically Israeli dodgeball, and it's super popular in South Jersey. Every school, every camp the kids go to have multiple Gaga courts. So I had that feel like this is one culture's game, and the kids love it, and it gets to the point where adults were playing it. So I loved it. Playability, certainly playable. I mean, any one of us can just play tag for a little bit. And because I liked it so much, I thought it'd probably be pretty watchable, kind of like a rugby, because there is the tackling, but not really as violent as rugby or football. And this was number 1 on my non-North American European games.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I thought this was stupid. I just was like, how do you I was like, because it just doesn't seem like you're not really holding your breath, because I was like, even if you were, there's really no way. It's like such an easy way to cheat. You're like, oh, yeah, how are you gonna know if I'm breathing or not? Obscurity, I mean, if you're factoring in the holding the breath part, yeah, it's probably super obscure, but like I said, it's tag. So tag is tag. It's not that obscure. No interest in watching it. An F for watchability, an F for playability, especially if people have asthma. You can't play this. Like you pass out after like the first 2 minutes. Is it a sport? No. And I would probably not find. I don't. Unless you play it, it really doesn't seem that enjoyable. So this was really low on my scorecard. This was one where I was like, nah. Pass.
Yeah. And like I said, I would play it just to be able to just have the novelty of it. But watch it now. We are close to running out of time, so we're definitely going to be doing this again next week, which again is fine with me. I'm going to throw a few extras on there that you guys don't know about. One of them that actually, ironically enough, inspired a movie from the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I will get into that one definitely.
Is that really a sport?
It was. Basketball was
I knew exactly. Yeah, basketball.
Basketball was a legit sport that was played in LA. News crews would come out and follow the sport. So I will be covering basketball. I think I'm gonna add that one to the list. I've got the rubber band championships. I think I'm gonna add to it. I got a few of them that are rolling through my head there. You mentioned Gaga. We'll throw that into the list now. But I think we're gonna continue with this because again, we only have 7 minutes left, and we've got like 7 or 8 left here as well. So I'm Jones for that one. But in the meantime, this is also not a sport. This ranked really low on my side. You guys have the order that I've got, so you know what's coming. It's simply called slaps. So much like boxing, where the object is to punch someone until they knock out, in this case, you take turns slapping each other across the face until you literally KO your opponent, or they call it quits. This one is also an absolute F as far as stupidity goes. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the dumbest sports out there. It probably originated from really drunk people in bars. That's how my feeling is on this. Obscurity, I have a feeling it's pretty obscure on that. On a scale from 1 to 10, I put it as an 8 there. Next week, we'll get things more in line as far as A and F goes. I think we'll work on that a little bit. Playability, very easy to play. No way in hell am I playing it. However, watchability, hell yes. I will absolutely watch that thing. I will happily watch people, because I don't know if you saw the one video there where the one guy got slapped across the face and you see the other guy just get knocked out. He just falls straight back, no movement whatsoever, no trying to catch himself. He was knocked out physically while still standing upright.
Yeah. Yes. Stupid. I gave this one a D. It's just like shot for shot. When you used to punch each other in the arm, but it's to the face. There's got to be a sport where you get to kick in the shin, then slap in the face, then slap and shin back. That's the real sport that's coming up. Obscurity, I gave it a C because I've seen highlights of this on my Facebook feed for feels like years, like just the winning shot you see. Boom, boom. Playability, piece of cake to play. I'm not letting you slap me in the face. So watchability, the highlights are immensely watchable.
Yep.
But watching a whole match, one of the videos you gave us, or there may have been a video that came after, these guys it was 10 minutes of them slapping each other back and forth in the face. And it gets boring. It's like, okay, there's no defense. And that affects it being a sport to me. I'm on the edge about it being a sport. And it was number 5 of 5 on my list of martial arts.
It technically counts. I can see it.
Yeah, from a violence perspective, this is such a stupid sport, but I love it. I think it's amazing. And actually, obscurity, I give it an F because I've known about it for years. For the same thing, it's been all over social media, Facebook, Twitter. Watchability, an A. Oh my God, the highlights. Like you said, I watched that video. The dude getting knocked out. You see those one-hit KOs and guys just go down like trees in the forest. Playability, super easy to play. And like you said, I think it literally did start in bars with drunk people. It's easy to play. I have no interest in playing it, but super enjoyable to watch. And is it a sport? Yeah, like they have actual like champion like competitions and prize money for it. So, and I can, like boxing, there is it's questionable because there's no defense. But I mean, hey, look at the NFL. Half the teams in the league don't play defense. So, it's like, yeah, definitely think it's a sport. This is all like it's something people should definitely Google just for a good laugh. Like, oh my god, it's awesome.
That's the idea of doing the show.
And it's always these like, it's a dude who looks like he just got out of prison with like these bear claw hands, and they're just like 1, 2, and you're like, oh no, man! It's like boom, and they're just whacking. He's like, there's somewhere you see like I've seen dudes take it to the side of the head, and like their eardrums are ruptured and they're like bleeding, and then just another dude just takes it right across the jaw and is out cold. And I'm like, oh my god!
You need like one of those slow-mo videos where you just see it just. That's probably gonna have to do it in this case. We only got 3 minutes left in the show, and I definitely the next one coming up. I don't want to basically only use 3 minutes on that one.
Yeah,
Buzkashi, I want to spend some time on that one because that's just nuts. So I had fun with this. So we got through about 8. We had, like I said, we got 6 left, 7 left. So I do want to add, like I said, some of the extra ones to it next week. Basketball is going to be thrown on there. I did mention the ear pulling championship with rubber bands, which is apparently something really popular in Asia. There's a few others I'm going to probably throw into the mix as well. But if you guys are cool with it, and I've already kind of led up to it, sorry. Yeah, we'll do this again next week as well.
Yeah, Red Bull. Look up Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull.
That was a big thing for like a couple years back and stuff. We could also look into like some of the other extreme sports and things that were like obscure X Games events and sports that were out there for a while. So
Wing Bowl on there.
Yeah, it's fun, man, because it's like it's so many random things. It's like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, and that's where I'm. Like I said, I had a lot of fun looking some of these things up, and I had a lot of fun doing, basically doing the show. That, in this case, we talk about a lot of what's going on. We talk about current events, but we never went in this direction before. And again, Obi, I give you props on that, and also Dave Hashhagen when he was on, because that's what led this whole idea to actually take place. The obscure sports thing on Netflix, and I love it. So yeah, we're going to come back again, do this again next week. This show, as always, can be heard on 122 different podcast platforms between the US, Canada, Europe. Thanks, as always, to the Barnes Burner Radio Network, ZINGOTV, for having us as well. For my, as always, far better co-host, Mr. Rob Stats and Mr. Obi Schottenfeld. You guys are awesome. I appreciate this. I'm grateful to you guys as always. Find us on Twitter at BB Sports Den and on Facebook at Barn Burner Sports Den. And as for me, I'm Scott. Thanks as always for tuning in. Stay awesome.
Happy New